Good morning, everyone. You're listening to TraceElements Radio, live again on Wednesday, and it is 6 p.m. EST. Guess we should do the news first. I've left Facebook officially. I guess it takes a couple weeks to sign out, so if your name gets removed from my list, it's nothing you did, just time to go. If you need to get a hold of me, you can always go to TraceElements Radio, and I will stay in touch with you. I think the time is short, and we need to be attentive of ourselves. If we've been done one misservice, and I think everything else stems from this one, it's because science and majority of our popular religions too have taught us a concept of object, subject. What object and subject does is allow you to think in terms of you and me, us and them, myself and God. It's basically you and those other guys. And normally we do not like those other guys. If we separate by color or geospatial orientation of our minds, doesn't seem to matter. It has separated us, because if we were connected in the way we should be, there would be no way we could hurt another sentient being on this planet. We could not attack wildly like what is happening on Facebook. It is evil. I know it's not a word I usually use often, but I absolutely believe this is evil. What we need to be doing right now is healing ourselves. Now, whether you look at, I don't know, maybe what we've done is think too broadly. Because if we thought narrowly, we could heal the planet by healing ourselves. And I know you're in pain. As a matter of fact, I haven't met anyone who was not in pain. Many cannot admit they're in pain, of course. They can't. Because it's much harder to look at yourselves than look out there at those other guys, the others. So what we need to work on right now is healing ourselves. Each of us. I'm sure if we do this individually, it will make a difference. I have to believe it. I can't believe we live in the world we do. That people don't love each other. That we have put money over everything else. Don't you love me? Seriously, do you not love me? Is there no love left? Or do we just care what baubles we have? People have become the lowest denominator of themselves. Black men think it's okay to call each other nigger in a rap song. That's not okay. White guys think it's okay to dress like they've just walked out of prison and showing everybody their underpants. We are better than this. So, healing. Now, what I've done specifically for myself is really involved, and I would absolutely never even recommend what I'm doing to anyone else. It's not just about going vegan, which I know a lot of people are doing now, but it's complicated. There are vitamins, there are rituals, there are potions and things. It's much better for you to find your own way for this, because whatever you put time into, there goes your mind, there goes your body. If you work this out yourself, it's better. But working with other people, this is good too. Try not to look at them as something else, something better than you, because no one's better than you. There's no big disapproving God out there that you have to kneel down to. Now, I do have some friends that are actually good at this stuff. Tobias, who you've heard on my show many times, and he comes on Revolution Radio as well with Rebecca. He actually does do healing, and it works. If you would like a bit of a tougher way, I can do a reading for you. My readings for this sort of thing aren't like the New Year's Eve readings where they take 5 minutes. It'll probably take us a couple hours. I do not charge for this. If you would like to donate, that's fine. Money is not important. We are fighting for our lives right now and this planet. There are species just being found a day or two after we wipe them out completely. We are run, or at least have put people in charge who are afraid. They live in fear. Their fear is obvious because there's nothing more dangerous than a frightened man. Do not corner an animal. They will fight till their very last breath. For good or bad, we are smack dab in the middle of a demon realm. The majority of people are there. When you go to Facebook, you can see that's where these people live. They can't even have a polite conversation. Polite conversations don't happen anymore. People have to attack. They have to judge. They have to belittle. They can't say anything in a way that we were taught, at least I was, by my mother, my grandmother. We've gone wild. People are acting like they're feral. Animals don't act like this. Unfortunately, people do. And what we're suffering from is very deep, it's very dark, and the storm clouds are gathering. Trump has ordered military advisors to prepare plans to hit North Korea. We are watching the geopolitics of World War III in front of our eyes. We cannot do this. That is a reaction of pain. People are so afraid of the other, and the other is a demon or a bad guy or someone who's a different shade of skin than you, or it's an animal, or it's a plant, or it's, I don't know, some space aliens from planet XR7. Us being separate, feeling separated from each other, is the only thing affecting us. It has made us weak, and that needs to stop. We are each other's brothers and sisters. We are. And if we turn our backs now, this will be over too soon. I came here for the party. Let's open a kegger. Let's get ourselves together strong. And I will absolutely help. If you want me to read your cards, if you want to do a meditation with me, you can go to TraceElementsRadio.com. And you can leave a message for me on the left side of the page, and I will get back to you. Just have Skype. It makes it easier right now. I'm still working on my hands. They're still stiff a little bit. So, we look through this glass darkly and search out the head-scratchy stuff. Undeniable themes and patterns are emerging through seemingly ordinary events. It's a convergence of shadows, manifest right under our noses, hidden in plain sight for those with eyes to see. We are given pieces of a puzzle that speak to order. There is a power in this world that thrives on chaos and disorder, but those who are wise understand, and amidst this darkness, providence whispers, available to all through an act of will. And this is the other thing we have lost, our will. And despite whatever chaos may arise, the order has existed since before existence itself. And the only way we get out of this is not going to be from marching on the streets. They will kill you now. They've gone full out Dark Lord, avenging angel stuff. So what do? Do we embrace this paradox? It is both. We flow in and out of seemingly separate compartments of existence. We ignore arbitrary boundaries imposed by a deceptive media apparatus, dogmatic theologians, diverse elective officials. I was speaking here in a broad sense, of course. For specific examples, I encounter goes something like this. Look in the mirror. If you heal, so will I. I absolutely guarantee it. We will feel better. People around you will feel better. These things matter. They absolutely do. We have been through this before, seemingly millions of times. Why are we replaying Rome? You want to know what's going on now? Just read the book, The Rise and the Fall of Rome. That's it. Why would we choose that to replay? We're replaying Dune, one of my favorites, where, he who controls the spice controls the world. We are fighting over table scraps from other people's countries. If we're still believing there's another, we are stealing their stuff. We have become children, very bad-mannered children. We fight for no reason, for nothing. So we must look at these dark battles for our minds, escaping this dark cave of political and economic and global sorcery, dark chaos magic. Power is tearing human minds into pieces, putting them together again in new shapes of your own choosing. George Orwell, 1984. The mental hysteria on display right now, not just in America, but all over, has become unbearably stomach-churning for us all. We cannot handle stress. We are not made to handle stress. It makes us sick. We get tight. We can't loosen up. We need to relax. But it's almost impossible. Get off of Facebook. People are becoming demonic and dark there. They will not leave you alone, and it will only get worse. Now, blocking oneself off from television, mainstream printed media, is no longer sufficient shielding from this cult of state idolatry. Daily visits onto any social media platform showcase the new microdosed form for propaganda, served in the form of memes, video links of paid shills or platitudes or screeds of would-be party delegates, of whoever is going to control your mind better, because we're fighting over who's got the best master. It's conditioning, normalizing the behavior and actions of sociopaths, psychopaths, in a role embraced by the masses at large, because our brothers and sisters are falling under this. They're not evil. They're not bad. We no longer ask, why did he shoot those people? Why did she stab that person? Why are there planes flying? We don't even think to ask. It's all react. It's all, we immediately think we should fight. Somebody thinks they should anyway because they're frightened. People are going to take my stuff, Mommy. Big Brother has never been only the state. And all its propaganda arms, of course. Big Brother is your friends, your family, your co-workers, your neighbors. Social media has unleashed a complicit public to work on their behalf at no charge at all. You give your daily information. They don't need to mind control you. You've already lost. But you can get your mind back. It's never too late. Now, not that the government is looking to abandon their paid efforts. Of course, ad conditioning, because that's worked so well. But certainly, men and women sitting in important offices are smiling at the efficiency of this new wing of public messaging. Propaganda. Noun. Derogatory. Information, especially of a biased or misleading nature, used to promote or publicize a particular political cause or point of view. Not an hour goes by without an average citizen feeling compelled to browbeat their friends into supporting their chosen political god, along with the threat of banishment from their circle for insubordination, or sass in the ref. And the amazing thing is how predictable it all is. People who embrace a certain mold think and say exactly what they are expected to think and to say, without variation. They wear their mass media influences proudly on their sleeves. They have to let you know at all times which famous pundit or celebrity of the time they agree with. In fact, in most cases, they wait to express a view until someone of stature within their circle of influence says it or writes it first. A simple share with some obligatory "here's what I've been thinking all along" statement attached is as far as their arguments go. The more a man's life is shaped by the collective norm, the greater the individual immorality. Dr. Carl Jung. These are people who went to college, who were supposedly educated to think critically. But were they? Some of us embrace the college lecture halls as places to break out under the suffocation of consensus belief and messily forge individual thoughts. It's easy to recall the majority who continued to go with the flow, ride the most popular bandwagons. It's hard to blame them. The bandwagon ride is comfortable, leisurely, by those at the helm. Outsider ideas, minority opinions are shamed, ridiculed at every stage of life, from birth to death. Facebook is thus the newest haul of peer group shaming and pressures to get in line. Just today I read a post that said he must vote for a particular candidate despite that candidate being obviously in contradiction to many of the person's core values. Such a post not only illustrates their own abandonment of principle, a drastic compromise, if not a total abandonment, but the implication that we too, the readers, must do the same. Convert or die. We have become priests following the order now. We are their priests. We see then that the disappearance of the conscious personality, the predominance of the unconscious personality, the turning by means of suggestion and contagion of feelings and ideas in an individual or identical direction, the tendency to immediately transform the suggested ideas into acts. These, we see, are the principal characteristics of the individual, forming part of a crowd. He is no longer himself. He has become an automaton who has ceased to be guided by his will. Gustave Le Bon. From an interesting book, by the way. It's called The Crowd, a study of the popular mind. It's old, but he hits the nail on the head. This sense of obligatory participation in an utterly corrupt, shambolic process typifies the conversation around elections, but it's going on right now because Europe, poor France, poor everybody. Oh my God, guys, we got to do something right now. It's time for us to band together and remember we are at least brothers and sisters. At least that. Setting aside, not participating. One can't even participate safely on the fringes of third-party politics without being subject to profanity, ridicule. Ridicule in the form of peer-to-peer social media lambasting from the mass media talking heads that formulate their opinions. This has always been the fastest way to make a human shut up. Kick him out of the tribe. He will do anything. Because we are not meant to be alone. We are not meant to be us and them. We are not meant to be standing outside the circle. Indoctrinate. Verb. Teach. A person or group to accept a set of beliefs uncritically. Broadcasting was a vehicle for indoctrinating the masses right from the beginning. These efforts to single out non-compliers or alternative choice supporters are gleefully taken up by friends and neighbors. I'll be right back. Listening to Trace Elements Radio, live again on Wednesday, April 12th. And yes, I did have a wonderful birthday. Thank you very much, everyone. And it just made me realize we're not having enough fun. When did things get so serious? When did we fall into this world? These efforts to shame hurts us, hurts our souls. Of course, we want to be brave and pretend it doesn't hurt, but it does hurt. And they know it does. People seem ready to lay down their lives to protect this image of their beloved party figure or hero or whatever the heck they're fighting about at that moment. They are defenders of the court. They are champions of the Lord their God, while the court jester snickers off to the side. Governments have become so core to the identities of most people. The suggestion of disrupting their grip on all control levers must seem like a death threat. Two parties should be almost identical so that people can throw the radicals out at any election without leading to any profound or extreme shift in policy. That's from Dr. Carol Quigley, Tragedy and Hope. A death of self is just what's needed. If a person's identity is largely structured around some sort of political label, a party, an idea, I dare say they have wittingly or unwittingly joined a cult. You might as well be following the Dark Lord, because that's what you're doing. Following the Dark Lord. And the Dark Lord always has sycophants. Always. To me, you're all worshipping Pazuzu anyway. From The Exorcist, Pazuzu. Different story. But I mean it. There are always priests and sycophants following whatever mythical or, I don't know, believed leader. Always has followers, whether he is a serpent or not. Certainly does them no favors to be obliged to agree with and defend indefensible policies in conflict with their own ethical principles, which they believe to be the basis of their affiliation to start with. That's how the game works, though. They tell them what they want to hear in order to keep them believing what they want them to believe, and to believe that this special magic idea means something. Their compliance is locked and loaded and in from there, believing that they have a voice, that someone is listening. They continue to provide their consent to become slaves. Now, in cases when power elite senses disloyalty brewing, a threat is summoned, sending critical thought back into the closet. So it's all so sad and formulaic. It's like watching a bad movie based on a borrowed plot. Watch how fear sends foamed mouth masses into their respective corridors, even with the string pulling in plain view when Facebook admitted they did social experiments on us and we're still going back. And Google admitted they were doing social experiments on it. They both admitted it's run by an AI. They both admitted that they're sending people in to see if they can drive our thinking. And they've already planned it. They already know they can because they've studied us. And we know it. Everyone listens to me knows this. I think we still have some critical thought left. And we're all a little bit bleeding through the eyes and the ears right now. I'm losing control of my body again. And it's just because spending too much time doing things I'm not supposed to be doing. I can't spend time on this. It means nothing. It's not real. It is not real. Daily barrages of leaks and whistle blowing, undermining the entire system, too little to nothing to hamper these wild-eyed crowds shouting for their team to defeat the other guy. Because there's always another. If it's a guy, if it's an idea, if it's a political party, if it's the Koreans, if it's the Russians, if it's Syria being circled by the jackals. Objective, subjective. Us versus them. Hypnosis. Now, the induction of a state of consciousness in which a person apparently loses the power of voluntary action and is highly responsive to suggestion or direction. Is there a more overt example of sorcery at work in modern times? The effectiveness of the state's indoctrination magic is profoundly clear to me when observing the comments of your average citizen on any given day. The sorcery works during major crisis events, times of trouble, times of war. The cult of government far outshines the next best thing, the best thought control operation executed by organized religions, maniacs, egomaniacs. This is what we're following. This is what you see on Facebook, or people who just want to argue and be nasty and feel it's okay to be nasty whenever you want, to say whatever you want. I know you're all, let's have free speech. No, you can't say anything you want. It's not okay. And at this stage in the game, people seem utterly willing to accept any act of evil as long as they are perpetrated by their cult of choice. No war crime, no amount of dead children, no corporate selling out, no abuse of nature, no imperialist meddling, no lie, no loss of rights, no loss of privacy. It's beyond rationalization or defense in the minds of the entranced. It is an equally amazing and horrifying thing to bear witness to. In the end, the party would announce that 2 and 2 made 5. And you would have to believe it. Not just agree, but believe it. It was inevitable that they should make that claim sooner or later. The logic of their position demanded it, not merely the validity of experience, but the very existence of an eternal reality was tactically denied through their philosophy. The heresy of heresies was common sense, and it was terrifying. It was not that they would kill you for thinking otherwise, but that they might be right. For after all, how do we know that 2 and 2 make 4? Or that the force of gravity works? Or that the past is unchangeable? If both the past and the external world exist only in the mind, and if the mind itself is controllable, what then? That's from George Orwell, 1984. Trance. A noun. Half-conscious state, characterized by the absence of response to external stimuli, typically as induced by hypnosis are entered by a medium. Even the most obedient and mind-controlled amongst the masses have an inner inkling that we are facing a decline. What a threat to our humanity looms. They know that a threat looms. They know that it's close. We all feel this, and sadly, their only recourse is to support the very system of corruption that itself is the threat. The notion that there is a vastly opposing set of agendas amongst two parties in Washington, D.C., or any other place is at the heart of this a mental illness. Recalling Einstein's description of psychosis, is doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, expecting a different outcome, expecting a different result, is especially valid right now. That diehard party adherence sees a marked difference between Bush regime, Obama regime, the guy in the purple hat, the guy with the yellow face, the guy with the orange face. It's just proof that rhetoric and theater is what really counts in the minds of the masses, or that one group or one guy belongs to the class of the other. The 7 countries the U.S., 8 now, has bombed, high civilian death tolls, record-setting international arms sales, runaway militarized police, record deportations, heightened Cold War propaganda, the criminalization of journalists, whistleblowers, the expansion of pipelines and fracking, the lack of prosecution of Wall Street scammers, no meaningful shift away from the drug war, continued indefinite detentions, no punishment for the exposed torture tactics, and on the list goes. Who is the torturer? Who is the tortured? This all has gone on in an unbridled fashion under so-called liberal establishment. And not a one of these horrors against freedom, humanity, gives even pause to many of those considering what to do next, or whose side to fight on, or vote for that team. They simply fall in line, like the conscripted soldiers that they truly are. Human sickness is so severe, few can bear to even look at it. I know I can't. That's why I had to go. But those that do will become well. Vernon Howard. The escapes from the control grid are rare and truly worthy of applause. Discovering the keys to our own minds can be a difficult task when they've been so long hidden from our sight, or we've never been taught at all how to help ourselves, to put our arms around ourselves. But we really can't. It is not our way. We need others. We need community. We need to be part of a group. We do. And it begins with facing the realities that I've told you about, recognizing their complete violation of ethical values and principles at a very, truly fundamental level. It requires taking a look back over one's personal history of indoctrination, going back to grade school, seeing exactly how the shackles were put on us, ever so slyly. It's not to say methods of the elite aren't impressive, because they are. The level of unquestioning obedience, and outright reverence they've managed to enact, largely without direct force, is incredible. And seen in that light, it is not too hyperbolic to evoke black magic sorcery, chaos magic specifically, as a source of their power. It is not a coincidence that Sidney Gottlieb, CIA mastermind of Mind Control Project of the MK Ultra, was referred to as the Black Sorcerer. Now, sorcery, a noun, the use of magic, especially black magic, Operation Mockingbird. Brainchild of another CIA black magician, Alan Dulles. Was out and out CIA usurpation, I guess, of mass media to propagate a crafted narrative of current events. But it started right from the very beginning. This was never going to be okay. Get that out of your mind. This country was not made for you. It was always going to be okay for the rich and not for anyone else. When you were in Rome, you thought that the plebes were still Roman. You were Roman, but you didn't count. So you can pretend how much you belong to the evil empire, if you like. But it's still an evil empire, and it will never be for you. And it's no secret that 6 major conglomerates operate almost every major news media outlet that furnishes public opinion on this planet. 6. Worldwide. Working together. When a small group of insiders can call upon powerful forces to do their bidding, to effect a public consciousness alteration, I'm sorry, but that's effing magic. Magic is a real thing, and its concerns are directed efforts to create changes to the mind and to the outward reality. A white magician does this work upon themselves to reach higher states of spiritual consciousness, to create a positive effect for the world about them, the world around them, the cosmos. We become the seed becomes the universe, sort of thing. This is what you need to do on yourself. Each of us. We can do it together. I still believe that. I'm not ready to give up. I hope you aren't, too. But the black magician, on the other hand, works magic for the purpose of self-achievement. That's why people think their most important thing is to make money so you can buy some more shiny things at the store. They'll probably have children putting your shiny things together. That's important. That you have money is important. That's not important. We are important. Life is important. Without distinction between right and wrong, and yes, there is a right and wrong. Working from a disposition of moral relativism, I guess, this dark magic can be used on others without their consent, without their knowledge, without regard for damages. Again, objective, subjective. This is why we've lost our way. Please stay tuned. I'll be right back. Sorry about that, guys. I had to go open the window. I have no internal dimmer switch in so many ways. The thing that the MS is doing to me today is we don't like heat, so there it is. Magic. talked about it before, because it's real, and it concerns our directly efforts to create change to the mind and to outward reality, the real reality, the actual things happening in front of your face, the point that you look at them and think, did I just see that? But because we don't believe ourselves anymore, we don't think we just saw that or saw the news change from what it said an hour ago, word for word. And then every news channel saying the same thing, and then every alternative media is still repeating the thing, but not the thing that was said first. But every single one will repeat it, and you can see it, you can hear it on alternative media stations where they repeat the exact same thing, word for word for word. Are they working for the government? No, I don't think so. Not everybody. We don't make that kind of money. They're just entranced by them. Do I blame them? No. We cannot take these things. We are not made to live like this, to be like this in this constant stress. It is deteriorating our bodies, our minds, faster and faster. Mental illness is becoming a thing all over the world, and you'll say, well, Tracey, they can't really say who's mentally ill. Now, I think you can kind of say who's mentally ill, guys. When someone's sick, you know it. You don't need to have a special magic name for it. You know someone is sick when they're sick. And without distinction between right or wrong, dark magic is being used without our consent, without our knowledge, and without regard for the damages on this earth. And don't say it's demons. We are in a demon realm. That means we are using things of our own making to hurt ourselves, yes. But demons love this earth, especially now that we're all fattened and sugared and greased up like little walking Happy Meals and dumb as, the F word I'm thinking of. We live in a world of magical forces. This we know. Forces that can be harnessed for ill or good. Because everything was always available to us. We have been given bounty, abundance. Everything on this planet, animal, vegetable, mineral, wants to be our friends, want to interact with us. This is magic. Our lives individually are a miracle. This planet is a miracle. That we have each other and so many different kinds of things to enjoy is a miracle. The abundance of which we should be happy. There should be singing on the streets. We should have joy. There should be love. We live in a world of magical forces. The world's power players are just business now. Politics, war, finance, food. They're not standing passively by. They, in the cohorts, are working with psychic magic on the 24/7 time cycle to create the reality that serves their will. And these guys are not just powerful, they are frightened, so they are dangerous. And the question for the individual is what reality they can manifest for themselves. What changes can they bring about in their own minds or the minds of others? How can esoteric techniques be used to reclaim sovereignty over personal thoughts, actions? The first step is to admit there is a problem. Sit in a chat room for 5 minutes and listen to people bicker and argue and attack each other like this is life or death. We're typing to each other. No, this is not life or death. We're typing inside, and they want to keep you inside. They want you to sit there. They want you to sit and argue and get sicker and sicker and sicker. Following that up with a powerful renunciation of all mental and emotional commitment to the establishment is the next logical choice. What one chooses to do from then on to make peace with themselves is unlimited, variable, personal, to the individual. Then freed to make choices. It's a long road out of that dark cave constructed by dark sorcerers. Each individual journeying out may make their own unique paths to the light. We should not expect conformity on the outside any more than we should accept the forced conformity of the cave. There ought to be many flavors of freedom, many varieties of spiritual liberation, many ways to thank the Creator for this earth. Now, there must be a creative force, just like there must be a force of death. I'm not talking about good or bad here. There must be, and we are connected to both of those things. They are us. There's not something looking down at you and seeing that you are unworthy. You are not unworthy. You've never been unworthy, nor can you ever possibly be unworthy. Now, whatever those forces might be, the simple act of taking back control over your own mind and seeking a new truth is just the sort of light magic we need to compete this darkness. Uh-oh. Can you guys still hear me? Hold on. Something's very strange is going on. Hold on. Okay, I'm getting messages, not from the voices in my head this time. Isn't that good? It's a good sign. Anyway, there ought to be many flavors. We like differences, or there would have been one person created and the story was short. Although I don't think it happened a long time ago, I think it's happening now. That all timelines, past and future, exist. That there is now. There has always been now. There will always be now. The truth is some sort of light magic. We need to combat the dark. We have our work cut out for us and should expect to be met with daily resistance by our friends, by our loved ones, still clinging to the false security and forced order of the cave. If my experience stands for anything, it tells me that despite the difficulty of rejecting consensus reality, once having seen the light, it is impossible to turn back to the darkness of programmed ignorance. This places one squarely in the undefined, exciting new territory, a garden of possibilities, unmolested by wicked gardeners, planting their evil seeds of destruction, a personal Eden of limitless terrain, a fertile ground for the planting of new seeds, issued from pure divine inspiration. That is, of course, if one chooses to pick up the magic tools of light in order to banish the insidious bastards right out of their seats of influence for once and for all. This must be done. It must be. We must have this. I know, I get tired. I get tired of this. And, well, you know what the big stories has been this past week. I wasn't even going to talk about it, but enough people have asked, and it seems germane to the ongoing reality show we're all unwittingly and unwillingly extras in. Dune, the live-action feature. In case you've been on a media blackout or a vision quest, here's a brief synopsis. United States launched a military strike on the Syrian government airbase in response to chemical weapons attack that killed dozens of civilians earlier in the week. President Trump, on his orders, U.S. warships launched 59 Tomahawk cruise missiles at the airbase that was home to the warplanes that carried the chemical attacks, U.S. officials said. As it happens, the airstrikes apparently didn't seem to have the desired effect. The airbase was up and running within minutes of the airstrikes. Syrian airplanes took off from the airbase, hit by U.S. cruise missiles, carrying out bombing raids on this rebel hell area, defiant show of strength. Just a few hours after the airfield was bombed with 59 U.S. Tomahawk missiles fired from warships in the Mediterranean, aircraft struck targets in eastern, Homs countryside, according to monitoring group. The airstrikes were carried out by Khan Sheikhoun, the same town Bashir al-Assad's regime is accused of attacking with chemicals, and 7 other towns around the eastern Homs, some of which controlled by Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant, ISIL. This rebound seemed to catch the war party off guard, since CNN reported on the same story but appeared to ascribe the airstrikes to some phantom warplanes. Seriously, phantoms. I mean, couldn't be the Syrians or the Russians or the Americans, right? Or the British. Couldn't be those guys. CNN, who's been hammering Trump around Crocs since he humiliated their network, had in a post-election tantrum, basically, suddenly changed their tune when he started raining bombs on Syria. The media was kind to Trump's attack on Syria. Every pompous outlet that has spent the last 5 months screaming incessantly about the threat to democracy and inevitable death and the terror of wars and lions and tigers and bears, oh my, had actually nothing but applause as soon as the wars and the deaths actually got going. flashy, dangerous idiot, vulgarian, imbecile, until those first perfect screaming shots of Tomahawk missiles being fired were broadcast. That's our guy. You show him, Trump. This is when Fareed Zakira put it on CNN. Trump became the president. The same mainstream media, which has been a hornet's hive of controversy and conspiracy theory since the election, was quick to shoot down any conspiracy theories about the Syrian bomb show and back the president, because he brought blood on the exact right day, and he's sticking to ritual, so you got to respect that. So a volley of U.S. cruise missiles had barely been launched into Syria before the internet filled up with fact and some theories about the real reason for the international crisis, even though we all know, and CNN didn't mention, it's oil. They got the oil. We want their stuff because we're afraid we're going to run out and we're big crying scaredy babies. So a popular one on the rightmost fringes, the U.S. government actually carried out the chemical weapons massacre in Syria last week. I'm leaning that way. False flag to trick President Donald Trump into retaliating. No, because he said that's what he was going to do in 2012. Hit it. Ron Paul, of course, whose son Rand is now the rising star in the Senate, was perhaps the most prominent public figure to cast shame, or shade at least, on the Syrian op before this episode of possible gas exposure. And who did what? Things are going along as reasonably well for the conditions for the former Texas congressman said. Trump said, let the Syrians decide who should run their country in the peace talks. We're making out. Al-Qaeda and ISIS were on the run. It looks like maybe someone didn't like that. So they started bombing. For his part, Dr. Bones speculates that the real mark for the possible elaborate sting was not Assad, was not Putin, but in fact another player altogether, and the timing seems hard to argue with. A gas attack launched by the fleeing Syrian rebels, Assad quickly losing its CIA sponsorship, and well aware its continued health depends on American funds, sure has a shit ton more of gain from wide swatches of civilians dying on camera. Even better if they die particularly gruesomely. And in a way, the rebels claim they couldn't be responsible for being photographed with all the tech to do so. How does Trump seamlessly pointless explosion show play into this? The answer, perfect. Now consider that the Chinese president was in Mar-a-Lago when the strike was underway, that Trump not only told him it was going to happen, but actually ate dinner with him as it went on. And the event spirals into a greater significance. A show of force, full of technological prowess, in a contested war zone, while the Russians stood back and watched, sends a powerful message to a foreign leader currently dining in enemy territory. Is this just swivel-eyed speculation? Is there any reason to believe that this wasn't all some improbable coincidence? That Xi Jinping was indeed having dinner with Trump while the bomb show began? Because if it's not a coincidence, then it's one hell of a psyop, running like a mindfuck on your most dangerous frenemy during the state visit. What's this all about then? Well, there have been a spate of articles lately about the growing Russo-Chinese defense and security ties, being on the same continent and all, matching the growing financial and economic ties. This one left me stunned, for it was a statement within that caught my eye. I'm sure many saw this as well, and as you can imagine, this one fueled my high-octane speculation to a high degree. So here's the statement and a bit of surrounding context. Russia and China are tired of Washington's defensive military installations in their backyard, and they've already taken action. Now, according to the Atlantic Council and other responsible thinkers, the United States reserves the right to park its missile shields anywhere the hell it wants, whether it be Europe or East Asia or the dark side of the moon. So I guess we've seen this all coming, no? Because shortly before the bomb show, Trump's top Praetorian removed Trump's assumed consigliere from NSC. So President Trump on Wednesday removed his controversial White House chief strategist, Stephen K. Bannon, from the National Security Council, part of a sweeping staff reshuffle that elevated military, intelligence, and cabinet officials to greater roles in the council and left Bannon less directly involved in shaping the administration's day-to-day national security policy. Sorry, guys, I had to open the window. Got hot in here. The restructuring reflects a growing influence of National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, I think, an Army three-star general who took over the post after a retired general. Michael Flynn was ousted in February, and who is increasingly asserting himself over a flow of national security information in the White House. So, do yourself a favor. Set the news alert for McMaster from now on. That's a name you're going to be hearing more of in the days and months ahead. Or you won't, which is probably a more troubling scenario. Let's take a little break and I'll be right back.
You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome back, everyone. Now, the information that we're about to cover defies coincidence here. What began with Tim Tebow expands to Jared Kushner and Mount Herman again. I leave some things without explanation so they won't be weighed down so much, but regular listeners will understand, I'm sure. One example is a reference to Roswell. Each event, word, number, pattern has far more significance than the event itself. Roswell was a watershed moment in a conversation about ETs and some pretty heavy mind control by the same group. Now, the days of Noah are marked by an incursion of non-human life intermingling with humans, which may be what's happening now. Whether you want to look at this as a physical event or not, either way still works for me. It could be alien ideas, could be their mind control. But Roswell occurred 144 days before the UN resolution in 1947 that made the way for Israel to return as a nation. Israel's return is the primary prophetic marker for the last days. It is not an accident that the foreshadowing of the future incursion akin to the days of Noah took place during that time. Likewise, it is not an accident that Joachim Noah signed with New York on the anniversary of Roswell. Of types and shadows related to the time of Jacob's trouble, Noah's flood, Jacob 7 years plus 7 with Laban, and the 70-year exile to Babylon, when Joachim was king. It was during the time of 70 years in Babylon where Daniel wrote about the last days. The words were sealed up until the time of the end. Another name for Jacob's trouble was Daniel's 70th week. Oh, there's a bunch of things going on. There really is. Now, let's go back to Washington. Bannon. With Bannon off the NSCs, there's apparently an effort to shuffle him off to some fat, salaried think tank glue factory. The not news of Bannon's interest in the forthcoming was dragged out yet again, this time by the New York Times. But the article planted a helpful hint why Bannon is on the elbow list, might be giving us a grim preview of the year ahead. Bannon's views can be traced to a book that warns winter is coming, basically. But in a scary way, like, dun dun dun, winter's coming. It's bad. Scary things. Washington. Bannon has read the book 3 times. He keeps a copy of it, one that's creased and underlined, in a library with the rest of his favorites at his father's house in Richmond. The book, The Forced Turning, a 1997 work by 2 amateur historians, Neil Howe and William Strauss, lays out a theory that the American history unfurls in a predictive 80-year cycle of prosperity and collapse. It foreshadows catastrophe right around the corner. It also leads to unavoidable questions about war and whether Mr. Bannon, who has recommended the book to countless friends and made a film about it in 2010, is resigned to catastrophic global conflict. He says he's not, and he remains unconvinced that the United States can effectively intervene in overseas conflict like the one unfolding in Syria. As one of the voices in the administration who expressed skepticism about the military strike in response to Assad's regimes, the chemical attack on its own citizens, Mr. Bannon insists he is not a warmonger. Well, there you have it. Is there Syria proxy war threatening to heat up again? Or is this just another dance in the Cold War kabuki? It could be, because now there's a plane buzzing me. A World War II plane. Is it? I don't know. Sounds funny. Anyway, have actions like the bomb show become like sacrificial actions in the ongoing magical action? Or is real war, is it just for your mind and is playing out in 1,000 manufactured headlines and buzzards of 30-second videos and deceptive text scrawls and endless babbling of overpaid talking heads? I feel stupid even asking. Just in case you're worried that this is all leading to nukes raining down on American cities, the cognitive warriors seem to be trying to diffuse any expectations of impending Armageddon. Although things are looking a little bit Armageddon-y, the White House National Security Advisor says that while the U.S. may push for regime change in Syria, because that always works out well, they're not the ones who are going to effect that change. What we're saying is, other countries have to ask themselves some hard questions. McMaster said in an interview on Fox News Sunday, Russia should ask themselves, what are we doing here? Why are we supporting this murderous regime? And is that committing mass murder on its own population and using the most hideous weapons available? So translation, no way in hell. We have the readiness needed for a hot war with military superpower. And since the mind fuckery is the mother's milk of this Gog-Magog war, the careful inundation of mixed messages into the media feed becomes just as vital as a weapon as cruise missile. Scratch that. Much, much, much more. Now the difference here, of course, is that Tillerson sets and executes policy, and Harley sits in a glorified debating society, blows smoke and fairy dust for a bunch of bored bureaucrats wishing they had their real government jobs back, the ones they enjoyed before being pushed upstairs to present posts. The media only pays attention when the bombs are falling. And that's the truth. It's all black magic. Make no mistake about it. There are different terms and epochs for it all now. When you stripe and strip all the $20 words and the credentials and the technology away, the intent and the effect is no different than a witch doctor's curse. William S. Burroughs understood this since his uncle, Ivy Lee, was the creator of one of the most modern strains of black magic, so-called public relations. Burroughs considered his uncle a bona fide evil genius, his words, and Lee was a piker compared to the algorithmic fired masters of the dark arts striding the globe today, controlling the media feed. Here's a story that probably won't pop up in your media feed, though. Anyone paying attention to the Russia hacking story probably knows how incredibly weak the hacking evidence actually was. But now WikiLeaks is teasing out the Seth Rich mystery again. So Gosifer 2 chat with nude model sparks new conspiracy theories about the murder of DNC's Seth Rich. new chat logs between Democratic National Committee hacker Gosifer 2.0 and a Playboy centerfold model resurfaced last week via WikiLeaks on Twitter, throwing more fuel on the conspiracy theories surrounding a murder of the DNC staffer Seth Rich. The Twitter conversation conducted via direct messages, purports to reveal Rich as a primary leaker of the DNC emails. Remember those emails? That proved highly disruptive during the presidential election. In direct messages dated August 25th, 2016, Gosifer 2.0 mentioned having a whistleblower at the DNC and said that he was looking for a person of trust who can be a guarantee in case anything happens. When Young suggested trusting Julian Assange, Gosifer called him unsafe, and that he may be connected with the Russians despite being his heroes. I'd like to find a journalist who can do interviews or investigations and Teal, or at least find the real story of his life and death, he said, and revealed that the whistleblower he was referring to was none other than a person named Seth. I suppose you know who I'm talking about, he said, adding he felt sorry about the murdered DNC staffer's parents and wished for journalists to uncover the truth of the murder. Seth Rich, 25-year-old, mid-level DNC staffer, was shot and killed in the early morning of July 16th in Washington, D.C., while he was walking home from a bar, talking with his girlfriend on a mobile home. Rich's killers left his watch and his wallet untouched on his body. She says to herself. This wasn't floated by Alex Jones or David Icke. It popped up on Heat Street, which is owned by the Dow Jones Company and Rupert Murdoch's News Corp. This story looks like it's going to grow some legs. So if you're sick of the Gog-Magog War and the Cold War restart, revisited, or whatever it's redoing, tired of your social media hijacked by proxy warriors, fighting battles for clicks within the intelligence community, burnt out by the whole reality show presidency and its discords altogether, start looking into ashrams in Sri Lanka then, because this machine is just getting warmed up. They're not even close to done. They're not. Because this is just happening. And with the numbers and the signs. Rainbows. Rainbows are central feature in the days of Noah. As it was in the days of Noah that the rainbow was first introduced. So we were told. The increased visibility of rainbows in conjunction to mainstream manifestation of replica arcs to a disturbing degree, it is further confirmation to me. 3 weeks, 6 days from Noah's Ark, from the Netherlands crashing into the Coast Guard ship, Ark encounter opens on 7/7/16. Ark encounters creator, Ken Ham, shares the name of Noah's son. Why on earth are we even talking about Tebow? Now, April 6th, Tim Tebow hit a home run during his first at-bat as a member of Columbia Fireflies. I know, It sounds weird. Dominic Mazza, drafted 666 overall, throws pitch to Tebow 666 days after he was drafted. That's the pick, 666. And you can't even make this stuff up. Now the pitcher, Dominic Mazza, selected 666 in overall, and home run took place 666 days after he was selected, 66 days before the anniversary of the day he was drafted. He was selected 4 days after 2015, so 666, when American Pharaoh won the Triple Crown. I know I've said that before, but American Pharaoh last year, just screams to me, we're gonna do something, you're not gonna like it, na-na-na-na, boo-boo. Well, maybe not like that, but I feel singing and probably children in a scary, scary, scary way singing. So, Dominic Mazza, 666 overall by the San Francisco Giants and signed on 7/7. Dominic derived from the Latin Dominicus, belonging to a lord, which is from Dominus, a lord, a master, Mazza, a nickname, an occupation name, from Mazza, a club, a mace, a sledgehammer, a nickname for a destructive individual. Derivative of Italian, ammazzare, to kill or to destroy. So you see, destroyer and a club. A baseball team is known as a club. The club is synonymous for a bat. A slugger in baseball is one who wields their club effectively. As to say, they smash, they kill, they destroy the ball. Tim Tebow hits a 2-run homer in the first major league at-bat. His first minor league at-bat and his first professional at-bat, separated by 191 days. This sort of thing is not new to Tebow. He comes up with numbers all the time. And when his name is mentioned, something else always happens. It's usually America playing You Dropped a Bomb on Me, Baby. I know. Stranger things. Really, really stranger and stranger things happening on a daily level. All the time. Just trying to keep up with these things. And of course we can, and we can talk about that. We can talk about the violence. We can talk about how we're sneaking towards Korea again. But we told you to look for Hathor and rituals and deaths in April. We have such strange things, and can we get out of this? Can we even go home again? We are replaying so many things right now. Back in 1990, the Boston Phoenix ran an interview, or at least a review of the first few episodes of Twin Peaks, along with the plot of his sitcom, Wings. Very odd juxtaposition, I guess, intentionally so, contrasting David Lynch's highly anticipated boutique series against the paid-by-the-numbers half-hour comedy. But the reviewer was a cynical, kind of bastard, and cast a weird eye on the potential of a quirky show to appeal to something mainstream. bringing back old movies, bringing back old TV shows, showing them again and again. They're trying to remind us of a certain time, trying to remind us of certain conditions, trying to remind us of how to vote. Not exactly vote, but how to choose. This is why I left Facebook. Because we're being driven. We're being driven way too hard. And we've forgotten that we're in this together. And the present can only be viewed from the past. Only. "2017 seems like a hangover after a particularly nasty bender. The weird things were playing out again. The anniversaries that are going again. The Heaven's Gate anniversary, 20 years, I think. Yeah, 20 years. The solar temple suicides. So many things. So many things that I not only don't want to see again, I didn't want to see them the first time. So we need to find a way to remember that we're in this thing together. Because we are. And not to think so subjectively, because we're watching the Cthulhu and Crowley and the cosmic fire being visited. Peter Levanda has 2 new books out. One is a non-fiction work called Gods. God's attempts to put the ancient astronaut corpus of the past 50 years into an entirely new context. One explicitly connected with the mysterious cabal of high-ranking government, intelligence, military figures that de Lange claims to be working with. Because there's got to be, you got to bring in the aliens. It's so funny how our minds work, because this is our mind thinking of these things together. Even if it's just AI, and I'm wrong about we're all connected thing, it knows us pretty well. And it's replaying the same kind of stories for a reason, with Blavatsky, and again with the same Lovecraftians and Cthulhu's and Bailey and all these people that have always worked together, maybe forever, or again, maybe just the once. Maybe all these things are going on at the exact same time. But what if everything that we heard was all true? That it was not just a bunch of mumbo-jumbo? That is all true. And that should be a tagline for a popcorn movie, a rallying cry for all those real-life Jedi out there. There's a flip side to this equation, though. Maybe one that a lot of people might not factor in the calculations. That this is also a warning sent by a scientist and foreman to Jack Pearson. It's all real. It all works. Don't touch it. You'll get yourself in trouble. Okay, see you next Wednesday, guys. Drop me a note if you want to say anything or you want to do your Carson. Have a great week.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.